Home Team Sacramento podcast. I'm Josh Takimoto, and with me today is a former Sac State golfer, a media personality, a real estate agent, a podcaster, a mother. Nikki, is there anything else you want to add to the list? Because I feel like I can go on forever. There's probably a bunch of stuff that I don't know. Nikki B, what's up?
Hey, how's it going? Well, I'm excited to be here. No, I think you pretty much covered it all. So thank you.
Yeah, not a problem. I'm like, somehow, I mean, you and I met a few years ago when we were doing the Character Combine podcast, and somehow I was joking with you earlier. Somehow, you got busier between now and then. You became a mom. Congrats on that.
Thank
You became a real estate agent. I mean, you're doing. I'm like, I don't know how you can get any busier, and somehow you managed to do it. So good for you.
thank you. I will say I did get a nice little break in 2020 when the pandemic hit. But then yeah, when things opened back up again, then it was like, okay, full speed ahead again. Let's go.
Right.
But I did get a nice little break during that time.
Yeah, but I imagine your guys' break was a little bit shorter being in the golf world because I feel like everybody. I mean, I feel like I know some people that picked up golf during the pandemic. I mean, I feel like almost like that was like the one sport that was kind of able to keep going. Maybe not at the professional level. I know things changed, but like the casual recreational level, I feel like just to get out of the house, people were like, I need to golf because that's the one thing we can still do and kind of maintain, some of these rules. Did you feel
Yeah.
like that?
Yeah. Oh, 100%. The amount of people I know that golf now is astronomical. Like I
Yeah.
feel like it not just double, tripled, it like quadrupled. It's crazy. And I have so many women now who come to me and they're like, I want to learn how to golf, or I've been learning how to golf. Like, do you give lessons? Do you do anything? And it's been so cool to see because I've always just wanted to encourage more women to play golf. So that aspect has been really cool. And then, I mean, just in general, I've wanted, everyone to learn that the game of golf is amazing. And so the pandemic really did that. I think it was the like fastest growing sport in 2020, if I'm not mistaken. So and for that reason, I mean, it was one of the only things we could do during the pandemic because it was outside. You don't have to really like get in contact with people. You can kind of be off on your own. So it was great. But yeah, and in the pandemic, I was able to do more recreational golf, which was amazing. So I found out I was pregnant like the day before we went into lockdown in March of 2020.
Oh no.
Yeah, so that was a little interesting, but the beauty of it, so the golf world, as far as the business side of it for me, the media side, that slowed down because professional tournaments, it came back eventually, like I think, I don't know, a couple weeks later, a month later, I forget how long it took, maybe a few months, but so that came back, but the problem is the teams for those events were just drastically cut because, when we were in the pandemic times, you couldn't have as many people going into an event. I mean, there was no spectators. I mean, media production crews, it was all like bare minimum. So that was interesting. So like the business side of it, the media side of it, it slowed down dramatically. I didn't have really much business at all for the golf world. But I mean, the nice thing was I was feeling really burnt out at the end of
Hmm.
2019. So I think, everything kind of happens for a reason, and there is some beauty in darkness. And for me, I was able to, like I said, get a break. And then I was able to kind of like fall back in love again with golf, kind of as a hobby versus as a job. So uh,
Interesting.
yeah, so it was really nice. And then, it was cool too, because like I said, everyone I knew was starting to pick up the game of golf. So I was like, see, I told you guys this whole time. That's why I play.
Yeah. It just took like this massive pandemic to force them into it, but
Yeah.
you still won in the end. That's what matters, right?
Yeah.
That's awesome. So I have so many questions based on what you just said, but I'm gonna try to stay focused and tell us a little bit if no one's familiar with Nikki. One, I'm surprised 'cause I feel like I know so many people that follow you that I didn't realize followed you. It's just when we look at our like mutual connections on social media, it's like, oh, a ton of people know Nikki, which it shouldn't surprise me, but it's always fun when I see a common connection. But if you're one of the few people that doesn't know Nikki and doesn't follow Nikki, tell us a little bit about your athletic background and how you got to where you are today.
Yeah, well, that's great to hear. I'm happy to hear that a
I'm
lot of
not joking.
people,
I'm not
follow
joking.
me, so that's
Yeah.
exciting. That makes me feel good when I hear stuff like that. Cause, sometimes on social media, like, you just feel like nothing's being seen, no one follows you, and, the algorithm, all that is just
100%.
crazy. So it's nice to hear that stuff sometimes. So thank you. Um,
Absolutely.
but yeah, I got started. So I played golf. I started when I was like 12 or 13 years old, played in high school, and I got pretty good pretty fast. I was able to make the varsity team after only playing for a year. But I'd always been around it my life. My dad's super avid golfer, worked in and out of the industry my whole life. And so I ended up getting a golf scholarship to Sacramento State. And, I grew up in the Sacramento area. I really wanted to go somewhere far away. But like I said before, I think everything happens for a reason, and there is a reason why I did go to Sac State. I'm an only child, so I would have loved to get far away from my parents and just, kind of live out on my own. But it was
I'm
nice
sorry.
because,
Where did you I'm sorry, not to interrupt you. Where did you go to high school?
yeah, I went to Oak Ridge in El Dorado Hills.
That's right. That's right. Okay,
Yeah.
very cool.
So, yeah, I should have mentioned that, but I'm a Sacramento girl, like, through and through. Born in San Jose, but I mean, we moved when I was 7, so most of my memories are here in the Sacramento area.
Yeah.
And yeah, so went to Oak Ridge High School in El Dorado Hills, and then graduated and went to Sacramento State. And like I said, I wanted to go far away, but I'm happy I didn't, because I actually ended up meeting my now husband in college when I was 20 years old, and I have lifelong friends that I made on the golf team at Sac State. So it all happens the way it's supposed to. And yeah, so I played all 4 years. To be honest, I wasn't the best player. I didn't travel to every tournament. I didn't definitely wasn't like the number one player by any means. I traveled as an individual to a lot of the tournaments. So basically meaning my score didn't count towards the team score, but I still was able to go out with the team. But I'm happy I did. I mean, I from that experience learned a lot about grit and a lot about determination. But I also learned too that I just didn't want to do the hustle of like working my butt off to try and do something that kind of just felt like a job, and I didn't want golf to be a job. Like, I wanted to enjoy it. But what I did know is that I loved media, always liked, stuff with performing. So before I started playing golf, I actually was in musical theater. And so once I
Oh,
started playing golf, I kind of had to make that shift and choose one or the other. But I still love the whole aspect of performing, being on camera. So I decided that I wanted to work in golf media. Mainly, I wanted to get into broadcasting, working on air in some capacity. So I decided to create a blog out of, well, in my senior year, like right when I graduated. And really, it was like kind of the time where like Instagram and YouTube, all those social media platforms were taking off. And I decided to do product review videos. And the reason why I did that is because I applied to, I swear to you, every single internship and job out there. And I just wanted someone to give me a chance in the media space. And honestly, at that point, I was applying to not just golf media opportunities, but any sports media opportunity. And I just kept getting rejection after rejection. And people kept telling me, we need to see you on camera. If that's what you want to do, we need to see it. And I'm like, well, how can I do that if no one's going to give me the opportunity? And I was kind of like, this is a very interesting industry. Like, how do people get their foot in the door? So I figured, well, might as well take matters into my own hands. And I was noticing on YouTube, like there was people, these YouTubers, these vloggers out there that were creating these videos, and they had their own YouTube channel. So I decided to do these product review videos, talk about golf on there on YouTube and Instagram and all the other platforms. And then from there, it kind of just took off. I really I had my full-time 9 to 5 job. I was working in property management. I was working Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. And then on the weekends, I would try to travel out to any tournaments that were close by, or I would film, on my lunch break if I could, really quickly during that hour. I would film on the weekends, and so I really, it was like my side hustle. I feel like that's a term that's not used anymore, but it was really my
yeah.
side hustle. And luckily, I just networked and built relationships and just kept going and just kept putting content out there. And then finally, I got an opportunity to be on Golf Channel's show called Shopmakers, which is a top golf based competition show. There's only one season, but I was the winner of that one season. And
Hey,
then from there, it led me to my role with Golf Channel. And I was a social media correspondent for the Golf Channel. And then I did some TV. I had some TV gigs too. I had some like fill-in roles for School of Golf and a couple of their other shows. So yeah, so it was kind of like an interesting road to get there, but I'm happy that I got to experience it. And yeah, and I've just been kind of pretty active on social media. That's really, I mean, I would say how I got my start. And that's the beauty of social media. I mean, I'm sure everyone has a hate love relationship with it, but the beauty of it is if no one's giving you the opportunity or the chance, or no one's giving you a voice, you can create it yourself. And that's what I love about it. But yeah, and then kind of fast forward to the pandemic hitting and me kind of being out of a job and finding out I'm pregnant and not knowing what the future was going to hold. So I figured I should probably get a plan B, just a safety net just in case. But I didn't want to go out and get a 9 to 5 just in case the golf stuff would come back, or just in case I got some great opportunity. And I didn't want to give it up completely. So I figured real estate, I already had worked in property management, so I had some knowledge about it. And I decided to get my real estate license and kind of see what happened. And now it's been so amazing. Like I'm able to do real estate when I'm home, and then I can leave if I have to go to a golf tournament for 2 days, 5 days, 7 days. It's pretty easy for me to pick up and leave and go to an event, work at a golf tournament, and then come back, because I don't have to request time off from anyone.
yeah, for
So
sure.
yeah, so it's been really kind of the best of both worlds. And then not only that, I'm able to be home with my son, which is great. I kind of yeah, I'm able to have like a really great schedule. So it's worked out really well.
That's awesome. I'm gonna say two things. Number one, this is I told you beforehand we try to keep this around 45 to 55 minutes. This is the reason why, because I have so many questions to ask you, and this could go on forever, and I would abuse your time. So that's
I
why I
know, and
set a
I'm
limit for
also a
myself.
talker. I'm a big talker, so I mean, this is what I do for a living too. So I
I
could
I
be here for
appreciate it.
hours.
I don't even do this for a living. I just do this because I love it, and I can talk forever too. So, number one, that's why I set the time limit, because this could go on forever without boundaries. So I'm going to say that. But I want any athlete specifically, or any coach, like, to go back and listen to everything that Nikki just said about all of the things that she's done and all the ways that she took ownership of, all these opportunities, and creating a lane for herself. Because something we've talked about on this podcast quite a bit, and something I really love talking about, is how everything that you learn, whether it's the high school level, college level, every aspect of your sport, the discipline, the work ethic, the determination, showing up on time, all of these different things are lessons, life lessons that will benefit you down the road. And I can't think of a better example of that than everything that you just said, because you're like, hey, I couldn't find a lane for myself in media, so I created my own. Hey, pandemic hit, I became a real estate agent. Hey, I knew I was having a child soon, so I had to continue to hustle. Like, if that isn't a perfect example of how all those life lessons that you learn in sports pay off, like, I don't know what is. Like, is that something you still think about, like all these lessons you learned as a high school and Division 1 golfer? Do you like think about how those things play a role now in your life?
Oh yeah, 100%. I think that was huge. I mean, I think a lot of athletes, if they just play in college, don't continue on, or just play in high school and don't continue on to college, or once they graduate college and don't go professionally, they have this like athlete identity crisis, and they're like, "Well, I don't have any experience. I don't have any job experience. Who's going to hire me? What am I going to do?" And I'm like, "Your sport is a job. Like it really is. You have a schedule. You
That's good.
have to show up. Like you can't miss it or else you're going to get kicked off the team. Like same thing with the job. You have to work with a team. There's so many life lessons and good job skills that you learn by being an athlete. So I think that definitely, we have to recognize that, especially for athletes, any athletes that are listening to that. I mean, you're more qualified than you think you are. I mean, it really is being an athlete, being a competitive athlete, it's a job. It really is. And because, you have to show up and there's times where you don't want to. But yeah, I think about that all the time for sure. It is interesting though. I think the one thing that, you know, athletes get stuck on, like once they're kind of done being an athlete, is the fact that they've had someone tell them what to do their whole life. So they've had a coach and they've had their, parents, and they've had
Yeah.
everyone's told them what to do, where to be at what time, and what skills to practice, what drills to do. And then they graduate and they're off, quote unquote, in the real world. And it's like, now what? Like now it's all up to me. Now I can make all the decisions. So I think one thing that athletes can do, which I wish I would have done sooner. And I mean, I guess I kind of did it with starting like my blog and YouTube channel and Instagram and all that, but just take ownership and just try to be more independent. Like I know you have your sport and everything, but yeah, I think, take it upon yourself to, I don't know, gain some independence and kind of do things on your own, because I think too, when you graduate, I think that's part of the athlete like identity crisis that they go through, because yeah, it's kind of like oh no, what do I do on my own now? I don't have anyone telling me what to do and like where to go,
Wow.
and what
Yeah.
jobs to apply for. So I think that's one thing that athletes can definitely do.
That's a great point. That's something I've actually never thought of, and maybe you've mentioned that before on previous podcasts that we've done with you about that independence is a challenge, but like I've never really thought about that. It's kind of weird if you think about it. Like the higher you go as an athlete, it's almost like the less responsibility. Like there's more responsibility taken from you, right? Because you get to a higher level, and now you have someone that might be cooking for you, right? Or you have a trainer that's kind of keeping you on schedule, and you have coaches and all these different things, and you have all this money, and you have someone's handling that. That's really interesting. And then, yeah, I imagine it would be. I've never had to deal with this because I didn't play
Mm.
baseball at a high level. I barely played at the high school level, but that's really interesting that independence is a big part of that transition from playing your sport every day to going into, like you said, the real world and finding a new path. That's really
Mhm.
interesting. And I hope everybody heard that because, if you're playing at a high level, that day could potentially be coming for you and you have
Yeah.
to be ready for it. So why not prepare now? I like that a lot.
Exactly.
Um,
Yeah.
one of the things I have in my notes that I want to bring up before I forget. This is completely off topic, except for it does fit into social media stuff. You had a really funny interaction with Mr. Tony Romo not too long ago, which I
Mhm.
thought was really funny. I watched it a couple of times. And do you want to explain that a little bit? If you guys haven't seen it, go back and check it out on her Instagram. But like, what happened there?
Are you talking about when he thought we were taking
Yeah,
a photo and we were really doing a video? Yeah.
yeah,
So, I've actually known Tony Romo from the American Century Championship up in Tahoe at Edgewood. Well, I'm going to age myself here, probably for 12 years or more now. So I'm 29, and I think I met him for the first time up there when I think I was like 16 or 17. And my dad used to work at that tournament, um, on the driving range for it was TaylorMade at the time. They were kind of like the tournament sponsor, the tournament club equipment sponsor.
yeah.
And so that's how I was able to meet him. And I would just go up there with my dad and kind of like be a little assistant of sorts and just kind of tag along and have fun and meet the
Yeah.
celebrities. But it's been cool to kind of like, I guess, see our journeys evolve over the years. I mean, Tony, he's uh, like, it's so true when people say this about him, but he is the most genuine,
Yeah.
kind, humble person I have ever met. He's by far one of my favorite celebrities out there. I mean, the coolest moment was when I started working my first year that I worked for the Golf Channel at that tournament. I forget what year it was. It might have been 2017. But the following year, he's always remembered me, but like the following year, like he came up to me and gave me a hug. And he just like he's just that kind of person. So it's been kind of cool, I think. And now he's like this big commentator, and it's just so cool to see how his career has evolved. But yeah, but yeah, anyway, in that video, so we asked him, and it was a whirlwind. So he had just won, but he needed to kind of rush off to get to the airport because he needed to fly back. Because the following day, on that Monday, I think he was playing in, was it a Dallas amateur, some sort of amateur event?
Oh, geez.
Or, yeah.
Yeah,
So he needed to rush home, like get on a plane so he could make it home that night.
sure.
But yeah, so we were like rushing to get an interview with him for social. So I was managing all the social media platforms. I was helping manage all the social media platforms for the week for American Century. And so yeah, we had asked him, and we were kind of like rushing up. He was rushing to the media room because he had to do a conference real quick. We were like, Tony, real quick, can we get you for can we get you just for a quick second, do an interview? And I don't think he really heard us. So then we like are standing there, and he like puts his arm around me, thinks we're taking our annual photo together. And I'm like, and then that's when he goes, oh, what? He was like, I thought this was a photo. And I'm like, no, we're trying to do a video.
It's so
And then
funny.
yeah, but it was great. And he was able to like, shift really quickly. And I was like, just one question. That's all I need. I know you got to go.
That's
But yeah,
awesome.
he's just so willing to do whatever. And, his kids are out there with him, and they're so cute. Like they just love their dad so much. It was so fun. I was standing with them kind of, on the back of 18 green, and it was a crazy playoff this year, and it was so cute just to hear his kids like root for
That's
him. And
awesome.
like just their reactions, all the shots were just so cool. So yeah, but Tony's amazing. Like he is, I mean, most of the celebrities are really great, and athletes out there, they're all pretty they're all pretty nice, but like Tony just goes above and beyond, and he's just a really genuine, humble guy. And I think a lot of people really need to take after him because he's a great role model for other athletes out there.
That's awesome. And it seems like it based on, other things I've heard from people, podcasts and different things I've heard, it sounds like they've all had great things to say about him. And I also appreciate that you said that most celebrities are great, because we've definitely had some people on this podcast or other podcasts that off air have said, "No, let me tell you the real story about somebody." Who's like, "Oh, I wasn't expecting that story." Which is, just part of the game, right? Like not every person you run into is going to be an awesome person,
Yeah.
unfortunately. But it's awesome to hear that people like Tony Romo are out there that
Mhm.
are actually genuinely good people,
Yeah.
especially with that platform.
Yeah, and I think too, it really just depends on the moment. It's just like, I mean, at the end of the day, the athletes, they're just like us. And I know sometimes I have my moments where I'm in a sour mood, and if someone catches me on the wrong day, the wrong time, and it's kind of the same thing for them. And I have realized, over the years, especially just working that tournament, I mean, there's been years where like some guys have been like, that guy is a freaking like he is awful, but
Yeah,
then the next year I'm like, oh wait, he's actually really nice. So I think it just really all depends on kind of just the situation, what's happened that day, what kind of mood they're in. I mean, you have to think about, they get pulled left and right for everything, and everyone asks them to do everything. So yeah, I think majority of them overall are pretty nice guys, or and girls. But yeah,
yeah.
they're human like the rest of us. We have good days and bad days. We have good moments and bad moments.
100%. No, absolutely. Like you said, you catch somebody at the wrong time,
Mhm.
then they might seem like the worst human being in the world. It just
Mhm.
happens.
Yeah.
Life like that. Life happens. So yeah, it's a great outlook. I do want to kind of stay in this social media lane though a little bit. I'm gonna try to word this as best as possible without making it confusing. So obviously you have a pretty big following on social media. You are like you said, you were a social media correspondent. I mean, your whole thing is social media, right? From the real estate things that you do to the golf to just your own personal stuff, right? And like being a mom, like you have influence, you have impact through the things that you post. At what point in your career did you realize, like, did you start feeling the weight of that? Because I think sometimes there's a moment for people when they realize, oh, it's kind of like almost like hey, I've made it moment. But for people who care about their platform and want to use it responsibly, I think there is a moment where you're like, oh, people in Sacramento, like they know me, and they really take, a lot of um they take a lot of the things that I say either personally, or there's a lot of value in what I say to them. Like at what point in your career did you realize, oh, there's a lot of weight on my shoulders right now with this social media thing?
Mhm. Yeah, I think it's when I realized. that there were young girls looking up to me and reaching out to me, whether it was for advice, just on golf or on media or whatever the case was. That's when I really noticed it. You know, the likes and the comments, those are all great. But when you get a personal message from a girl who says, you know, I've been following you, I look up to you so much, like I aspire to have your career, things like that. That's when I realized I was like, oh, like this is what it's all about. Like, and social media is hard. And I will be very honest, like I have a love-hate relationship with social media, um especially, you know, right, like I kind of mentioned, I was kind of burnt out in 2019, didn't really know. I mean, I remember even telling one of my good friends in the golf world, I said, you know, I think I have 1 year left in me, like I can't do this anymore. I was just exhausted and burnt out. And it wasn't just social media, it was also like just the traveling and the crazy schedule, and it was all of that. But then, you know, having my son and the pandemic hitting, I think that was the rest of that I needed and kind of shifted my perspective. And then, yeah, I mean, but still to this day, like I've realized, you know, it doesn't matter what the follower count is. It doesn't matter how, you know, how many people like it or comment or whatever. Like what really matters, like at the end of the day, if I impact just one person, that will be enough for me. And with the whole pandemic too, like I just think it's so important to use any sort of influence for good. I mean, there's just so much awful awful things out there in the world and awful people out in the world, but I do still have lots of hope, for humanity and hope for the world. And my biggest thing is, and I had it even in my Instagram bio for a while, but it's like be the light in a world full of darkness. And you know, I think that all stemmed from when I realized that there were younger girls looking up to me, and that's what really I think also changed my content. And I was, you know, thinking, okay, if I were a young girl, what's the kind of content I would want to see? Even as far as recently, like I've decided to not use filters on my photos anymore, especially like on Instagram stories. I think it's so easy on Instagram stories to throw a filter on it and make it seem like you have perfect airbrushed makeup. And you know, and I think it's like we need to be real and authentic, and we need young girls to know that that's not real and authentic. So yeah, I think that was like kind of the time where I realized that okay, I do have an influence, and like what do I want to do with it? And I honestly thought about like younger me, like what would younger me want to see, what would younger me need to hear? And yeah, so that's kind of how I do shape my content and think of my content today too.
Yeah, no, I think that's awesome, and I think it's a great thing for coaches and specifically athletes, young athletes to hear. Because if you look at some of these athletes around Sacramento, I mean, all over the country, but specifically if you're looking at Sacramento, we follow obviously a lot of coaches and athletes for this podcast. But some of these athletes have incredible. They're high school kids, anywhere between 15 and 18 years old, and they have incredible followings of
Mhm.
people that are watching their every move on social media, which is wild. And so, whether they like it or not, there is a lot of attention on them. And so they do have a platform to make a difference. And, like you said, there are younger kids, especially with all these feeder programs, right? Like you look at Folsom High School, they have the junior Bulldogs. So you have these kids that are young that are watching the varsity level athletes do their thing on this massive stage. And they really do have an incredible opportunity to be, like you said, a light in this very dark, you know, situation that we find ourselves in sometimes. And so, I think the fact that, I mean, we've always said like you may not like it, but the bottom line is if you have a platform, you have the attention of a lot of people, and there's a responsibility that comes with it, whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
And so, the fact that you were so cognizant of thinking about your younger self or young girls that are reaching out to you,
Mhm.
I think is amazing.
Mhm.
Um, this is kind of a weird question, but obviously you have, like I said, a really big following of people. Is there ever a fear inside of you? Because obviously, I think you do a great job of responding to people. I'm sure you do a great job of responding to DMs. Most of the DMs, I'm sure you get unwanted DMs all the time, like all all women seem to, right? Um, but I'm sure you get all these young female golfers that are reaching out to you, saying all this advice, like you said. Is there ever a fear in you that there's a point you reach a certain level where like you're like physically unable to respond to everybody. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, so luckily, I feel like I haven't hit that point yet, and I really hope I never do. I mean, sure, it'd be great to have, like, millions of followers and, have all these comments, but, um, man, I can't imagine being able to respond back and build relationships with my followers. Like, there's random people I don't know that I've been messaging on this platform for years that just have been following me for, since the day one when I first
Yeah.
started.
Yeah.
So yeah, luckily I haven't hit that point, and I honestly don't think I want to hit that point because I know once you do, I mean, you have to hire people to respond back to stuff for you. Or they just go unanswered, but then I think that brings down your engagement rate and all that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's such a catch 22. It's like, yes, then you're reaching more people, but then also you can't really actually be social one-on-one with people. So yeah, like I said, luckily I haven't hit that point, but to be quite honest, I don't know if I really want to either.
Yeah, it's a weird thing, right? Because like I think just off the bat, a lot of us think, heck, we would just love to have that following, but then there's a lot of complications and problems that come with that, especially if you have a heart and a desire to make a difference.
Mhm.
Like, and some people might be like, hey, even if I had a million followers, I'll still be the same person on social media. I don't think it's possible because there's just so much that's going to be coming in. And I
Mhm.
think it's like physically impossible to respond to everything. So like, I don't
Yes.
think you can, I mean, maybe I'm naive, but I feel like that's just not a possibility for someone who hits that level, which is unfortunate, but it's just kind of how it goes, right? And
Mhm.
so,
Yeah.
yeah, it's probably a healthy perspective to like where you're at. I mean, again, you have a lot of followers, so you have a lot of eyeballs on what you're doing, which is awesome. Um, and I know last time we spoke, I mean, and it's always a part of what you do, but I know you were really passionate and are still really passionate about seeing the golf community grow, but specifically young female golfers. Um, we talked maybe 3 years ago, I think. It was right around the time when we had our first daughter.
Mhm.
So, you know, babies everywhere. But
Mhm.
what is how do you feel like the health or the growth of the female golf community has been in Sacramento specifically over the last time these last jeez jeez it's 8:42 people. I'm losing my mind. I can't even speak. There's like verbal vomit coming out. Okay, let me try that again. Since we last spoke, how is the health of the golf community here in Sacramento, specifically for female golfers?
Yeah, I mean, I do really think it's thriving. I mean, feel like 10 years ago when I was 19 and in college, like I didn't see that many girls on the golf course. Like, especially when I was golfing with my college team, like it was just us girls, and that was pretty much it. Maybe like some older women.
Yeah.
Um, but like I mean, when we walked out on the golf course, let me tell you, like we were breaking necks because I think all the men were like, what is a female doing here? Like, it was crazy. That's how it used to
Yeah.
be. But now I feel like when I go to the driving range, like the other night, I think it was last week, my husband and I went to the driving range, and there was a girl my age with her significant other. There was a young girl with her dad. There was like some like women a little older than me. Like, it was just so cool to see. And I feel like when I was in high school and college, I don't remember it being like that.
Yeah.
Um, and then also too, I now see just, yeah, more groups of girls and high school girls out on the golf course more practicing. And then also too, just what like in a college aspect for Sacramento State. I mean, when I went there, we were decent, but now these girls are like winning conference, like they're like just absolutely insane. Like they are so much better. Me and my best friend that was in the graduating class right behind me, we like to say that we teed it up for them, like because of us, like
Yeah,
that's
of
why they
course.
are so good now and have like
Yeah.
all the things that they have.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so I think it's grown tremendously, especially I mean women's golf in general, but Yeah, for sure in the Sacramento region. I think it's grown a lot too.
Awesome. And so I've told you this before, I'm not a golfer. I was not one of the people that decided to jump on it during the pandemic. I enjoy top golf, but I'm the dude that hits the side. You know what I mean? That hits the side of the like the ball dispenser. Yeah, my
Oh,
wife's like, I
no.
can't, I'm terrible. I'm so bad. And my wife's a PE teacher, and I'm like, I need your help. She's like, I can't help you. You like, and every time I go with like my brothers, because we all played baseball, we're all like, can we just like throw it? I think it would be better for
Mhm.
everybody, be safer for everybody. We'd probably hit the
Totally.
holes more. Let us just throw it. And they're like, no, you can't do that either. So, anyways, I'm not a golfer. So I don't follow it super closely. Obviously, I know some of the bigger names in golf, but is there a female golfer that's kind of like leading the way right now for is kind of like the example of for everybody. It's like, hey, this is what I aspire to be, and it's kind of the inspiration for everybody.
Yeah, I mean, I do think right now, we have I think I actually believe that there's gonna be a really big influx of female golfers coming into the space. There's a lot right now that are in college, who are like under 18, like just amateurs right now. But the Corda sisters, they're these two sisters, and I mean, they're good. I think they're probably, I would say, like two of the biggest American inspirations, like American girls. But other than that, I mean, there's just going to be such a huge wave of talent. I don't know if you're familiar with it's called the AmLaw. It's the Augusta National uh, an Augusta National Women's Amateur. Gosh, I blanked there for a second. But so that tournament that started, ooh, I think the year before the pandemic, if I remember correctly. And I mean, it just like I said, the talent that we're seeing, and I think it also helps that we have more opportunities now for
Sure.
young female golfers. Um, but man, like that is such a cool showcase of young talent because all of those girls are, they're amateurs. So they're either, I mean, there's some of them are in high school and a lot of them are in college. And it's just so cool to see. So, yeah, I think in the next few years we're gonna have like a lot of girls to look up to. Right now,
That's awesome.
I mean, there are a lot of girls to look up to. I would say the Quarter Sisters are pretty dominant right now. But I think in the next few years, it's really gonna get pretty cool and pretty competitive and intense.
That's awesome. Is there anybody that's kind of an up and comer from here around the Sacramento area off the top of your
Ooh,
head?
yeah, so actually, I'm gonna give my girl Emily Hoffman a shout out. So Emily was, I think she's 4 or 5 years younger than me. I remember when she first started playing golf with me, and she was so cute, and we were like, she was worse than me, and I would kind of took her under my wing. And then I went off to college. She was still in high school, and this girl just got so good so fast. And
Wow.
I was at Sac State. She actually got a scholarship to Texas, University of Texas, in Austin, and she like so much better than I will ever be, could ever be. So it was really cool just to see her growth. But now she's out. She's competing and trying to make it on the LPGA tour. So I'm always rooting for her. But yeah, she is. I believe she went to Folsom or Vista. I know she was a Folsom girl, but yeah,
Awesome.
so but I think she's gonna make it and she's gonna go places. She's gonna go far. So yeah, everyone should keep an eye out for Emily.
Awesome. Very cool. We will after this podcast, we'll give her a follow for sure and kind of track her progress and where
Right,
her
you should
career
get her on
heads.
the podcast.
Hey, if she would do it, we would love to do that. Let
Mhm.
me say this too. I want to give Nikki a shout out because Nikki was actually back in when you were first on our podcast after we were done recording. You recommended Lauren Johnson to us, one of our favorite guests for all the podcasts that I do, and she's been a friend of our show for quite a while. So shout out to you. That was an awesome connection. So when you suggest somebody, I will
Mhm.
be reaching out because Emily must be awesome. So
Yeah.
you haven't steered us
Well,
wrong yet.
Lauren is the best too. Lauren, oh, I love that girl. She just has, I mean, she's so good at what she does. I love everything that she says. and she makes you think in ways that you've never thought before. I mean, because that's what she does for a living. She's a mental performance coach,
Right,
so
right.
maybe it makes sense. And she's also expecting her first child, her first boy, in a month, less than a month now. So
About to
I'm
join the
so
parent club. Yeah.
mhm, yeah, I'm excited for her to embark on this journey with her husband Jake, who I know really well as well. So I'm very excited for them.
I've only met him once, just very briefly, when we just happened to run into each other at an event, um, her and her husband were at. But everything she said about him, he sounds like just an incredible man, and
Mhm.
she's awesome. Obviously, she definitely. We've joked in the past, and I've told my wife this. I feel like I have to. I mean, I always prepare for these podcasts, but I feel like I really have to prepare when she's on the podcast.
Yes,
I'm
totally.
not nervous, but it's definitely like I gotta set my game up because she always does when she comes on the podcast. It's like I can't look like an idiot, basically, is what I'm saying. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? So yeah, you know what I'm saying?
I
So
get it.
but anyways, I will definitely reach out to Emily if you suggest it, because like I said, you haven't steered us wrong before. But we have a few more minutes, so I just have a couple more questions for you. Um, so one of the questions we like to ask on this podcast is, obviously it's called Home Team. And I told you before, our tagline is, even though we wear different jerseys and compete on different teams, at the end of the day, if you have a passion for seeing uh, your community get better as an athlete and a coach, then you're a part of this home team here in Sacramento and the greater areas. The whole thing's not the tagline, but you get the gist. Like, that's kind of it. And that's the purpose of the podcast. So that being said, even though we are all working together to make this community better, we are still competitors. And so when you go play football on a Friday night, it doesn't matter who you're playing, you want to beat the opponent. When you're golfing, you still want to win. And so we're
Mhm.
not naive to that. And we place a high value on competition. So that being said, who is an athlete that you competed against back in your golfing days that you feel was someone that you just loved competing against because they brought the very best out of you? Like, you knew when you went to this tournament, you had to really bring your A game because this person was going to push you to that.
Oh man, that's such a tough question. I mean, I don't know, there's so many girls that,
It's like picking your favorite kid.
wow, this is like flooding back lots of memories and names. Man, I mean, there's really not just one. There's a lot of them. I mean, I remember, yeah, and I feel too. So I was definitely, I would say probably like the social butterfly of like the junior golf gang that was, yeah, like all the junior golfers back in my time. I think I was more interested in making friends than I was like getting better at golf. So, but there are so many girls. I mean, I just names that are coming back to me. Demi Runas, Ashley Noda, one of my friends, Lainey Silva, who's also a realtor now. There was a girl, Marguerite Swearingen, or Swearington. I know, I think it's Swearingen, which actually it makes me think she might be related to someone else I know. But anyway,
Hey, look at that.
and then Sam Stockton was another one. Oh my gosh, I know Sadie Strain was another one. We had a fun group of girls, man, when I was in high school.
Yeah.
We were like so tight. We would always see each other out at really the first tournaments is where we always like saw each other. But yeah, I mean, we had a really Saji Palavivatana, she's another one. I ended up going to Sac State with her. Yeah, we had if I'm now Nicole Cruz, and that everyone's coming back to me now.
That's
So
good though. That's a lot of
yeah,
competition. If you can name that many names, that means there were a
yeah,
lot of people out there. And I guess it kind of speaks to what you were talking about earlier about like the health and the growth and development of women's golf in the area. Like, if you had that many competitors
yeah.
that you respected, then yeah, that you guys are heading in the right direction for
Well,
sure.
yeah. Oh gosh, I'm just remembering on it. Brianna Mao. I just feel like I can't leave anyone out yet because I don't want anyone to get mad at me. But all these girls, and that's to your point, like that's what was so cool. Yes, when we played golf, we were competitive with one another. Like we all wanted to win. But at the end of the day, at the end of the round, we were giving each other hugs, and we were still friends. There was never any bad blood between anyone. It was all just so supportive. I mean, at the end of the day, we just all wanted to play our best golf. So, Yeah, it's fun now. Thank you for bringing me back to that because it's fun. Like now, I feel like I need to reach out to all these women and see how they're doing now. Oh wait, Claire Sorensen, I forgot Claire. Oh my gosh. Anyway, so yeah,
I
there's so
know.
many. Like I said, we had such a fun group, and we didn't all go to the same high school.
Yeah,
We were all at different high schools throughout the greater Sacramento area, but like, man, we had so much fun.
that's awesome. So you thank me now for that question until someone reaches out like, "Hey, Nikki, you
You
forgot
forgot.
me." And then you reach out like, "Hey, that was a dumb question. Why'd you ask that question?"
Well,
Put me on the spot.
seriously, if anyone hears this and I forgot them, I am so sorry. Like, yeah,
We'll take
I
that one.
swear. Yeah.
Doesn't mean you were bad. Just
Yes.
she's a mom. She's got a lot of stuff on her mind. Just let
I
it
have,
slide.
we'll blame it on the mom brain, okay?
Hey, my mom, or not my mom, my wife, two different people. My mom and my wife are two different people. I want to make that very clear. My wife was saying that the other day. She's talking about that. It's like, hey, I'll throw that out whenever I need to.
Oh, yeah.
Two little toddlers running around.
Yeah.
That's no hesitation there
But it's
on that
an
mom right now.
actual fact. You know that when you get pregnant, you lose gray matter in your brain. So, like, you it's a mom brain, pregnancy brain, it's a real thing.
Oh,
So,
I have no doubt. I feel
yeah.
like I can't say that. Like, hey, is your mom brain kicking in? Because then it causes problems.
True,
But she
true.
can say it for sure.
Yes.
And she, like I said, we have two young girls. So
Mhm. Oh,
um she has, twice, I guess twice the mom brain, if you will. That's what she would say.
yes.
Um, which I want to point out too, like, anytime it's awesome, anytime we have, or we follow, like a female athlete or a female coach on Instagram, or we have, we had Mary Joe Truesdale, who you've done a podcast with before with Deb, people like Deb, yourself, Lauren. It's cool for me as a dad knowing that there's so many, like, hopefully my daughters play sports one day and they love it as much as you do or as much as me and my wife do. Like, that's our hope, right? But it's cool knowing that there's so many awesome examples of female athletes and people who are doing, like, females who are doing amazing things in the sports world that they can one day look to and say, oh, I aspire to be that, or I want to be like that. I'm not sure they're going
Mhm.
to be golfers because they have no good examples here in our home, but maybe. But regardless, right? They can still look at someone like you and say, like, that's awesome. Like, I want to be more like that person. So just like, I want to say that to anybody who's listening, and to you, like, I'm super thankful for that as a parent, because I know that, like, I guess my daughter's future is in good hands with great examples like yourself and other people who have been on this podcast. So I am super grateful for that because I think that's really important.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And I will say, I mean, at least I know this for me, and I probably can speak for all those other women. It's because that we had great role models ourselves. I think I wouldn't be where I am today if it weren't for like Natalie Golpus was one of my role models growing up. I mean, I had a bunch, when I think it's the same thing for everyone. We all have really great influences in our lives. And so it's almost like, it's the circle of life. Like we kind of feel that we have to give back, but we want to give back. We want to, in return, be a good role model for the next generation too.
Yeah, which I think is awesome. And that's why coaching is so important, especially like we feel at the high school level. It's so important because I think that's such an interesting point of an athlete's life and just a human being's life, is that, 4-year period where they're going through a lot of different changes and emotional things and life things happen. And so when you have an awesome coach that can play that role and can be that role model, like you guys are for so many young golfers and so many young athletes, like, it really is an important thing. And I've said this before to any coach who's listening and coaches I've talked to, like, if you don't take that responsibility seriously, you probably shouldn't do it, because it's a
Mhm.
really important job. And if you're just doing it to, hang up a banner or win some kind of trophy, it's like, that's not good enough. It's too much of a time commitment. It's too much of a responsibility to just do it for that reason. Like, if you're not in it for the change, then I just don't see a purpose. Like, I don't see a reason to do it. So um, it's awesome. Like I said, it's awesome that you had so many great role models that you can model yourself after, and aspire to be in. And look where you are now. They did a good job. So um, I think that's great. Um, where'd my notes go? Oh,
Mhm.
I don't think I asked you this before. Who's your favorite golfer?
Oh, wow. That
Or, like, I guess, who
is
was your favorite golfer growing up? I mean, I don't know if you can you say that now? for what you do, can you just like toss out a favorite golfer now, or is that kind of like
No, I
against the
can
rules?
tell favorite golfer, heck yeah. Um, Gosh, but that is a good question. I mean, the first two people that came to mind is who I just mentioned, Natalie Golpis. Growing up, I loved her. I aspired to be her. Um, so yeah, she was a big influence on me. And then what's cool is later on, when I got into my career, I actually I was an Adidas ambassador for a while, and so was she. And we got to do a photo shoot together, and I got to interview her after, and it
Nice.
so I got to like show her the picture that I took with her when I was like 11, 12 years old. So
That's cool.
it was really cool how it came full circle, and we became, close friends. And so that was a really cool moment. But I think my favorite golfer overall, and I mean, yes, for his golf, but also just for who he was as a person and a businessman, is Arnold Palmer.
Sure.
I also got to meet him, and that was a surreal moment in my life.
Oh, I bet.
He was on a golf course in La Quinta, and it was during well, now it's called the American Express, I think. Back then it was like the Bob Hope Classic, I think.
Okay.
But he was on a golf cart with his wife, and it was like, I remember my dad saying, Nicolette, Nick, and that's my real name. He's like, Nicolette, Nicolette. Yeah, Nikki's a nickname, everyone. But
Sure.
and he calls me Nicoletti too. So I should say that's actually a more accurate of how the
Okay.
situation went, or the memory went. But he goes,
Yeah.
Nicoletti, Nicoletti. He's like, Arnold Palmer's right there. Go up to him. I'm gonna take a picture of you with him. And I'm like, oh my God. And I'm just going to panic mode. I'm like, that's not every day that you see Arnold Palmer in the flesh.
A legend.
Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, and obviously at this point it was, later in his life, he wasn't a active golfer or anything
Sure.
like that. But he, like, his legacy, I was just so starstruck, and he was so nice, and he stopped for a quick photo. But yeah, I mean, what's cool is, and I didn't know it in that moment, but later on I had learned he is kind of dubbed the founder of sports marketing. Like before him, I don't think any athletes had really like big endorsements. Like he was kind of one of the first people to really like pave the way for that. So, I mean, in that respect, I totally respect him for that. I mean, he
Yeah.
created, like, no other athlete before him, I think, had their own logo, but he created his umbrella logo, and it took off into like his the Arnold Palmer drink, and like and everything else
House
that
in the
he's done.
garage. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, him obviously for his golf career, because he's one of the greats. He's like the king of golf. But then I mean, outside of Tiger, but but
Yeah.
then also just who he was and how he's remembered, and his legacy, I just think is so special, and just so cool. So yeah, I think definitely, I mean, I would say Arnold Palmer's probably one of my favorites. I actually told my husband, if we ever have a girl, I would like to name her Palmer, but
Ah,
he
nice.
doesn't love the name, but I think I could sell him on it. He got our son's name. He got to choose that. So
Oh, so
yeah.
you're
Yeah,
owed one.
he won that battle. So now it's my turn.
Oh, all right. That's a smart way of doing it. Yeah. Divvy up the names.
hmm I mean, actually, Palmer for a boy would be cute too. So we'll see.
That's not, yeah. You can figure it out. Yeah. You can figure it out.
Yeah. I just
What?
don't know if I wanna name my, like, future son Arnold. I mean, I'm not gonna have an Arnie running around the house. That's a little
He's
too old school for me.
he's got to be a stud athlete if you do that to
Yeah.
him. You know what I mean? He's got to
Yeah,
like compensate in that area because the name's gonna be
for
tough.
sure,
Yeah,
for
I've been
sure.
I've grown up in locker rooms and dugouts. I know how brutal it can be in there. That you don't want
Yeah.
you don't want to send the little guy in with that Arnold. It's tough.
No,
Yeah.
no. Yeah.
That's funny. So you actually teed me up for my last two questions. One was just a random thing that I just thought of because of what you mentioned, and the other one's the last question that we asked. You mentioned Tiger.
Mhm.
What did you think about the documentary that they did on HBO? What, a couple years ago? What did you
Yeah.
think about that?
I mean, I thought it was great. I mean, the again, talking about legacy, like the legacy Tiger has left, and he's not even dead yet. Like the guy's, still alive.
Yeah,
I just think yeah. I mean, I know he's had his fair share of troubles in the past.
sure, sure.
um, but I think ultimately at the end of the day, like I kind of mentioned, like these guys and these gals who are these celebrities, these athletes, like they're human. Yes, they have this incredible, insane talent, but they are also a human being at the end of the day. They're not a god. So yeah, I mean, I think his legacy is just, um, I mean, you can't compare it. I'm kind of, I'll be interested to see when he's gone, kind of like what else he, accomplishes from now until that day. But yeah, I think, I mean, he really changed the game of golf. I
Yeah.
mean, we always talk about. I remember in my lessons with my instructor, he would always say like, "Get to Tiger 2000," because like 2000 was like his prime.
Yeah.
And so, like, he wanted my swing to look like Tiger's swing in the year 2000. So he would always pull up the video of Tiger in the year 2000.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And so, like that's what, I don't know, that really just changed the game. And I mean, we haven't had a Tiger again, you know.
Yeah.
Will there ever be one? I don't know, probably not. Does the game need it? I don't know. But man, I mean, I think people either love him or hate him. I think more people love him than hate him. But I think you just can't deny what he's done for the game of golf. And I mean, I will say it is annoying kind of how all the golf media usually always revolves around Tiger, even when he's not playing. Like everything they talk about, it's like Tiger, Tiger,
Right.
Tiger.
Right.
Uh, Not so much anymore, actually. I think now that he's gotten older and, he has his like, well, all his injuries, but his most recent injury in the car accident. Um, I think that's all been interesting. But yeah, like I said, he is a human at the end of the day, but man, you can't deny the impact he's had on the game of golf and then just on the world in general.
Yeah, no, I agree. My wife and I watched it again. I'm not going to try to speak on something I don't know because, like I said, I'm not in the golf world at all. But we definitely watched it, and like I think you do, you'd be hard pressed not to walk away from that feeling a lot of empathy for him because, and as you know, like golf's a little bit different than some other sports. Like you can start some sports at a pretty early age, but like golf, you can start really early. And you look at the videos of him starting at such a young age, it's like he's been dealing with this stuff for a long time. And he's
Mhm,
been on the in the, spotlight for a long time. So to grow up in that
mhm,
would be I don't think a normal person who's not a celebrity can truly understand what that pressure would
mhm,
be like and the toll it could have on your mind, and your body, even your body, right? Your
mhm.
heart, all those different things. Like I just don't think we can truly comprehend what that can be like. And I think it's easy from the outside to say, like, well, they should have done this or they should have done that, or they, what I mean, they made a bad decision. It's like, yeah, it may be true, but it's a little bit more difficult from the outside perspective when you haven't actually gone through that type of pressure. So
Yeah. I mean, I think for what he has been through in his life, I am shocked he has, like, I guess I don't want to say done as well as he has, but has kept it together as well as he has. And I mean, I'm a big believer too in that bodily injuries can also stem from emotional and mental
yeah,
toil and turmoil. And I mean, he's been through a lot. He's always been around golf. He's always had that pressure. He's had that pressure from, his father growing up. That was a, very interesting situation. And yeah, I mean, I think all things considered, I mean, he must have very thick skin because,
oh yeah,
he's been just, yeah, it's like he as a person has just been so polarizing and just so like the focus, like I said, like in golf media, like even if Tiger's not playing, they talk about Tiger. So,
right.
I mean, imagine having that big of an impact on a whole sport and you're a single person. So, I mean, I think all things considered, I think he's done very well. And yes, people mess up and make mistakes, but yeah, given the cards he was dealt, I think he's been, I mean, just a force of nature and had a great impact on the game. And I think he's learned a lot, and I think he's grown a lot. And yeah, I'm excited to see what else he's going to do with the rest of his life. So.
Yeah, I agree, 100%. Last question I have for you, and like I said, you kind of mentioned this, and you mentioned it with Tiger and both Tiger and Arnold Palmer. Uh, and the last question we ask is, what is the legacy that you want to leave for our hometown here in Sacramento?
Mm. So the legacy that I want to leave here and really just in general is what I mentioned earlier. I want to be a light for people. Um, I think that things the world can be dark at times, and I would like to just bring light to people. My biggest thing is, and this kind of goes back to what we were talking about, when talking about the young girls and what like thinking about myself and at that age, what would I need? What would I want to see? And I just want everyone to feel seen and to feel heard and know that they're loved and know that they have worth. And I think, yeah, like life is way too short to be negative. I mean, granted, I get in my negative headspaces sometimes, but overall, I do want people to leave a conversation with me feeling better about themselves, feeling confident, feeling positive, and just, yeah, feeling like they can do anything and accomplish anything. So I just want to be a light for people. That's all I want. Yeah, I think I've always mentioned too, like my biggest thing is create your own path. And I want people to know that they can. We kind of mentioned it earlier in the podcast, but if there's an obstacle, figure out how to overcome it or figure out, I mean, if one door's closed, there's a window open somewhere, like,
Yeah,
yeah, so those are kind of the two things. But the biggest thing is I just want to be a light for others, and I want them to feel seen and heard, and I want them to know that they're loved and they're worth it.
I love it. And from what I can tell from the outside, looking at your social media, you're doing an awesome job with that, and we appreciate that you do everything that you do, and we're thankful that you're a part of our home team, and that so many people here in Sacramento claim you as our own because I've seen it on before. I think it was some cycling place.
Mhm.
That's where I saw you most recently. It was a picture of you, and they're like, everybody in the comments was like, "We love Nikki B." It's like, well, there you go. There's your influence, and people, you're obviously making an impact. So we appreciate you. Where can they, if you're not following Nikki on social media, where can they follow you on social media, websites, if they're looking to buy a house or sell their house, all
Yes.
that stuff? Where can they follow you?
Yeah, so everything, pretty much all the platforms, any platform you can think of, I'm there, and it's at Nikki B Golf, NIKKI B Golf. I'm most active on Instagram. Still haven't figured the whole TikTok thing out yet.
I hate it so much, but
I know.
I'm gonna. I do it. I do it.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
Actually I only did it, and I think we have a common friend in Cody Allen.
Oh yeah,
Um,
I love
yeah,
Cody. Yeah.
he was on the podcast a little while ago, and he's like, "I do it." I'm like, "Really?" He's like, "I just post my podcast clips there." I'm like, "Well, if he's doing it like that, then I can do it too." But yeah, I don't understand it. I'm gonna be honest.
Yeah, I know. Trying to get it, but I don't know. But and then website is again Nikki B Golf. I really need to get it redone, so please don't look at it. Maybe give me a couple months before you check it out. I do have another website though called it's nikkibhome.com. If you're interested in the house stuff. But yeah, you can always shoot me a DM if you're interested in anything golf related, real estate related, motherhood related, or anything else just in general. So I'm an open book.
Perfect. And I know you're not really doing the podcast thing anymore, but those podcasts are still up though, right?
Yeah, yeah. So
Okay.
the one of the podcasts, the first one I did was called Play Like a Girl. I did that with Max Preps, which is now owned by CBS Sports, which is pretty cool.
Hmm.
But we interviewed a lot of female athletes on our podcast, and that was a lot of fun. And then the other one that I did was called The Pregame with Kat and Nikki, and that was with my friend Katerina Contouris, and she used to be an on-air host, or not on air, but on court host for the Sacramento Kings.
Right.
And so yeah, and that was fun. We interviewed just like athletes, celebrities, media people, people in Sacramento. So yeah, those are still up. I think pretty much anywhere you can listen to podcasts. So
Perfect. Make sure you guys go check out all of that. Follow her, do all of those things. You will not be sorry. Nikki, as always, thank you so much for your time and taking some time out of your busy schedule to hang out and talk with us. We appreciate you. And good luck with everything that's coming up in the future.
thank you. I appreciate it.